You are listening to the Postcast presented by the Locked On Senators podcast and, of course, the Glebe Central Pub. Go check out our pub in the heart of the Glebe at 779 Bank Street. You guys know we're getting geared up for a big day at the Glebe Central Pub on Saturday. Ross and I will be there, and we're taking the shuttle, and we're going to have a great time heading to the game up against the San Jose Sharks. So check out the Glebe Central Pub. I'm your host, Brandon Pillar, joined by Jack Richardson and Lalime's Martian. After a 4-1 loss to the Winnipeg Jets, and the Ottawa Senators losing streak continues, and the Winnipeg Jets roll right on through our nation's capital and extend their winning streak to 11 games. Martian, I'll start with you. I see the disappointment. You decided to stick this game out, boots on the ground. This is a tough loss, but in my opinion, it could have been a lot worse. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think everybody looked at the lineup and said that's going to be a scheduled loss, and Winnipeg's a tough team to beat.
We don't say scheduled loss, though.
We don't say scheduled loss. Well, Winnipeg's first in the league, and they're dominating right now, and they're going to be tough to stop no matter what. So, I mean, obviously, the Sens were going to need something special to happen to come out with the W here tonight. I was hoping Linus Ullmark would show up and have himself a game and be the difference maker here for the Sens. But when your forward depth is as thin as it is, like it was tonight, then you're kind of in one right off the bat. And I mean, the forwards didn't even score any goals tonight. So that pretty much tells you the story right there. It was, the only goal they ended up scoring was from the back end, and that was Thomas Chabot. So, I mean, when you're looking at something like that, it's not perfect. They also only had 2 shots in the third period, Pilsy. So when you're looking at coming back, that's not going to cut it. They just need to get more traffic in front, get more shots to the net, and just, create more offense. And guys were trying for sure, but they were in one from the start here.
Jack, how did this game go based on your expectations heading into it?
I'm a little disappointed, to be honest. I know that it was David versus Goliath, just no lineup for the Sens against a healthy team that's rolling 10 in a row, 11 in a row. But I thought their start was really unorganized. And I don't know. I mean, I know Tim Stützle had that bad giveaway for that first Jets goal. But to me, it feels like the break only benefited Stützle. Like, he's the only one who looks a bit more refreshed in terms of his speed and his everything else. I know that obviously a bad giveaway I just mentioned, but every other player, it looks like they're just looking to get their legs back. And it's, I could go down the lineup. It looks like every single player is struggling to find that kind of pace they had before the break when they were playing so much. But then you look at these other teams who are hitting the ground running, like Detroit and Columbus. So it's tough, man. I mean, they didn't use the break, it looks like, to their advantage, and you'd think they would have. And 5, I know it's a scheduled loss and we don't say that, but it was all things considered. But it's still 5 in a row. They have a minus 15 goal differential in those 5 games. It hasn't been close. They're getting blown out of the water in 5 games and have completely taken themselves out of a strong position in the standings. It's frustrating.
Yeah, it's tough to think of where we were a couple weeks ago and where this team is now. And Martian, to add insult to injury, pun intended there. And as our friend Owen C says, you guys going to talk about going 11-7 for what, 4th game in a row? How brutal is it that this team doesn't even have the cap space to put a proper roster on the ice, and they're losing all the way through it. And up until tonight, it was 4 straight losses up against divisional teams, twice Tampa, once Florida, then Montreal. And now the losing streak continues here. And you're not even getting, as Ross coined it today, a 12-6 roster, which is just what a normal roster is supposed to be. We shouldn't have to specify that.
Yeah, it's super frustrating. And I don't know if that sort of just lies on Steve Staios and obviously just the health of the players that they have available. It's like they can't do anything because these guys aren't hurt enough that you can, free up their cap space with a little LTIR action. And so like they're too tight up against the cap. So when you look at Travis Green and his options, he really doesn't have a whole lot that he can do as far as, slotting guys in and going 12-6 like they should be. And then, you put in Travis Hamonic in there, and he's essentially at this point. I mean, he's the 7th defenseman on the depth chart, in my opinion. But he's out there; he's playing tons of minutes, and he just can't be out there as much as he is. There's things they can do to make up a little bit of that 11-7 just by putting him in there in position at a time that makes a little bit more sense. But I mean, they're rolling him out there, and then it gets Matt and Paolo and the rest of the right hand D out of a groove too, I think, and that's something that's gonna affect the rest of the team more than it has to. The 11 forwards is not as big of a deal. I think if you talk to a lot of NHL forwards, 11 forwards for some of the big guns, they're loving that. The problem is the Sens have no big guns right now. They've got maybe one little gun, and that's Timmy Stützle buzzing around out there, and he's doing his thing. But there's only so much he can do. So when it comes to the defensemen, they're the ones who are really getting affected by the seven on the back end. And you got to find a way to get them a more consistent, predictable sort of rhythm going with their line changes, rather than just plugging in, Hamnick wherever you feel like he deserves to get in there, and he's getting in there too much, I think. And it may be in Travis Green's head, he's not the odd man out. And if it's Matt and Paolo, go for it. Then just figure out a way to get everybody else in a solid rhythm, and that's going to help the guys in the back end. But again, I don't think the back end's the issue. So 11-7, you can say what you will about it. That's not the problem the team's having. The team's just having problems scoring. So, I mean, what do you want to do if you're Travis Green? You're screwed there. And that's probably on Stevie Stais. You can't get too reactionary here. I mean, hopefully these guys are going to be back for the next game, and this will be in the rear view sooner than later. But, man, it's just going to be – it's tough to watch 11-7, especially with the track record we're seeing right now, boys. It sucks.
Well, there's a reason teams don't go 11-7 on purpose. It's not great. And the issue is there's a logjam on defense right now. Like JBD is, as far as I know, healthy and ready to go. So really they have 8 defensemen. And then when you have Travis Hamnick, a guy who should be your 7th defenseman with a no move clause that the coach loves, he's not going to find his way out of the lineup. So it's a tough position here. But I mean, Jack, we can talk about the 11-7 all you want, but when you're scoring 1 or 2 goals in most of your games and you're losing all these games, the way you shape your roster can only be put to blame so much. There's so many guys that I feel like that are just not reaching their potential. And you kind of mentioned it, that coming out of the break, you thought guys would get a bit more of a boost here, and we're not seeing that.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys on cruise control up front for me right now. And obviously the injuries, everyone's talking about it for weeks, for months. And Tkachuk going down is such a blow to those wingers. Even though when Tkachuk was playing, he actually wasn't even playing his best before the Four Nations, right? He was pretty quiet overall, but guys like Perron and Giroux and Batherson just have not been good enough up front. And I think that when you've got a lack of options up front and you have 11 forwards, those are the guys you need to step up. And I actually did think Michael Amadio did a little bit more than the others, but still at the same time, you look at his stats at the end of when's the last time Amadio scored? And he hasn't been enough on the score sheet. And I think when that happens, and then you talk about them not being able to dress 12 forwards because of the cap, and you look at who they signed in the summer, it's Amadio and Perron and Nick Cousins, right? And it's just guys who aren't able to carry the load offensively when the other guys go down. And it's not that you expect them to do it every night, but they just didn't create enough. And even a guy like Ridley Gregg, I didn't notice him enough tonight. I didn't notice anyone up front other than 18 for the right and wrong reasons, right? And that's an issue that I think has been there the whole losing streak. And it's just there's no solution to it, which is the problem. And you just think that at this time of year, with you lose your playoff spot, you'd hope and expect that they'd come out guns a-blazing a little bit. I thought Batherson started to look alive in the last 5 minutes of the game. He threw a couple hits, but it's too late at that point. Where were you all game? So that's where the problem is for me, boys. He's just too soft. He was too soft.
He was soft all night. On that first, or was it the second or first goal? He tried to take a stab at it with one hand to try to knock that away, and that's never going to work in the National League. And then just going to Perron, this guy is so slow out there now. It's just he's obviously, I don't know if he's still bothered by this injury or just coming back from the injury in general has slowed him down. He hasn't been able to get his feet under him, but he's so ineffective out there, boys. He's a step and a half, if not 2 steps behind the rest of the guys on the ice. And I don't know what you do to fix that, because, he came in as advertised as a guy who's supposed to be able to move up and down the lineup a little bit and help out when stuff like this happens and you're in this situation, and he is not delivering. And you're paying this guy $4 million a year for this year and next year. I mean, I'm looking at his play and I'm saying this guy's a case for retirement right now. Like, you put this guy in LTIR and let's use this cap space. And I mean, he's just struggling, and I don't see it getting better for him.
Yeah, it's tough. And I mean, I think if he was on a third line role consistently, he could find his groove. But the issue is with all the injuries, he needs to be a top 6 guy. And I mean, I think the Senators, when they gave him that deal, kind of thought he could be the 6th guy here. And it's not working. And look, it's tough for me, a goalie hugger. And I feel like most of the time I'm on Linus Ullmark's side. And he had a .947 save percentage in this game. But boys, those two, the second and third goal was tough.
Yeah,
and I mean,
he started 2 for 4, right? 2 Pilsy. Like, that's just a bad start, and that hurts.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to have tickets on the glass in that end, and watching that second goal where it's sitting on his pad, Martian, I was about to put my beer down, jump on the ice, and freeze it myself. I mean, it was just sitting there, ready to be frozen, and he just had no clue where it was, like completely no clue. And then later on in the game, again, in that same end, he makes a great save on a breakaway. I forget who the player was. He tried to tuck it 5-hole, and Ullmark makes the great save, but he slides 5 feet out of his crease and thinks he has it, and he spun around the whole wrong way, and the puck's right there open. And it was one of those where everyone in our section was just going, like just covering our faces with our hands, being like, what is going on here? And it just seemed like he was having a real tough time tracking pucks. He was letting big rebounds go. And I don't know. I don't want to get too hard on the guy because, like I mentioned, a .946 save percentage. Like, if you're just looking at the box score, if you miss the game and you're looking at this tomorrow morning, you're probably thinking, well, this isn't Ullmark's fault. And usually I'm the goalie hugger, but this one was one where, Martian, you tweeted it, and I agreed with you that Ullmark needed to steal this game. Like, if he could have stolen this game and not let those 2 tough goals in, because the third one, I kind of thought was his fault too. He swipes at it a little bit irresponsibly with the poke check, and then you're just completely out of position, and that makes for an easy goal that sneaks past him there. So tough one for your Vezina winning goalie that you want to steal you the game, especially when you got a Vezina goalie across the ice from you.
Yeah, it sounds like you had a really good view for that, Pilsy, so I'm sorry to hear that. But yeah, I think the only other point that I'll make on that is you can't walk into a game wearing that suit and not deliver a great effort, right? I don't know if Ross has that graphic or that photo ready, but like, the guy walked in with the loudest suit you'll ever see for a walk-in as the starting goaltender, and you think to yourself, like, okay, this guy's going to be ready to go tonight. Like, look at this, look at the way he's going, and no, he just fought it all night, like you said. So it's tough to see. That's a tough look too. I want him to show up next game looking with something a little more neutral than the old white and black checkered suit. I think I just need him to calm down. I know it was tragically hip night, and so maybe he was really summoning a little bit of his inner Gord with that hat and things. But man, just a tough look for him with that suit. And, he can't be walking out in that tonight, right? He's got to have a backup outfit for the walkout. I mean, this is just a tough look, in my opinion.
Yeah, when you're at home and you decide to wear a loud suit like that as the starting goalie, you better hope the equipment guys brought in a plain gray suit with a normal pattern tie for you to leave the game in. That's a good point, Martian.
At least leave the hat in your bag or something on your way out. That big sun.
But that is Linus Ullmark's style. So, and hey, I'm no fashion guy. Sens Central merch is the majority of my wardrobe, so I'm not about to judge anyone's suits here. But a place where I'm hoping to see a lot of Sens Central merch, boys, is at the GCP on Saturday. You guys know that this postcast is brought to you by our friends over at the Glebe Central Pub. Visit them at 779 Bank Street. And check out the website to get your tickets for the Sens Shuttle. We got two buses this Saturday for the Andrew Hammond Hamburglar Appreciation Night, Jake Sanderson bobblehead. I don't know about you boys, but I'm going to be crushing 1, maybe 2 smash burgers in homage to the Hamburglar. Maybe we'll pack a couple with us and throw them on the ice if things go well. Probably not going to do that, but that would be fun to bring it back to that. Curtis Lazar munching on one of those after is always good memory. And anytime we're at the GCP, it's good memories. If you guys haven't been, gotta recommend it, especially for the people that are coming to games from out of town. If you're coming on your own, you want to meet fellow Sens fans, the GCP is a place for Sens fans and friends. So check them out at 779 Bank Street. Check out the shuttle website and get your tickets. $17 round trip. The bus takes you to the game, brings you back, and the vibes keep going. The vibes are free at the GCP. This postcast is also brought to you by Indeed. Look, did you realize your business needed to hire someone yesterday? How can you find amazing candidates fast? I got the solution, guys. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs puts your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. Has your business been in a spot where you need the right hire right now? The pressure's on, and every day without the right person is a setback. You got to dress 11 and 7 in your business, and it's not going well for you. Well, that's exactly when Indeed sponsored job post comes in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. So speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on the Locked On Senators podcast. That's Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed, is all you need. All right, boys, here we are in the postcast after a 4-1 loss to the Winnipeg Jets at home. The Sens losing streak continues, and the Jets did it. I didn't want them to do it. They brought their win streak to 11 games at the CTC. That number's supposed to be retired. They can't be winning 11 games at the CTC, so the disrespect is at an all-time high there. They outshoot the Ottawa Senators 39-25. The Senators, though, and we'll get into this, try to put a bit of positivity in this one. They shut down the league's top power play. The Jets go 0 for 4, including an extended 5-on-3. But the problem is the Sens go 0 for 2 on their power plays. My keys to victory, boys, was for the Ottawa Senators to win the faceoff battle. They won it 60-40. It didn't work out on the score sheet. Still took the L here. Both teams with 14 shots. A bit of a chippier game than you would think between two teams that don't really have a rivalry. 29 hits, 19 hits, a couple scraps in there as well. And the Winnipeg Jets win the 5-on-5 expected goals percentage, 55.3 to the Ottawa Senators, 44.7. Jack, let's try to get a bit of positivity here, and maybe that'll lead us into our Sens Central standouts. Shutting down the Jets perfectly on their power play, that is the top power play in the league, especially when Martin Paolo gets the double minor penalties, the high stick and then the broken stick. That's got to be a rare double penalty also. High sticking and then playing with the broken stick, that's a weird one. And then, of all people, our disciplined son, Jake Sanderson, gets another penalty, and that makes it a 5-on-3. But Jack, how'd you see that penalty kill?
That was really impressive. Yeah, and it sucks they couldn't mount a bit more of a comeback after that, because the crowd, Bills, you were there. They got into it. You guys were getting some energy in that building finally, because they did something to give the energy in the building. But, that 0 for 4 for the Jets on the power play probably doesn't do justice to the fact that was a full 2-minute 5-on-3 and then some after that. Like, how long? I don't know the actual game time they were shorthanded there. I guess it would be 4 minutes, not a math guy, but that effort was great, especially when Jake Sanderson, your best penalty killer, is in the box. So it was really impressive. And I think that's when I thought Ullmark actually looked great. Your best penalty killer is your goalie. They did a great job of just letting him see the puck, and he stopped everything you should see. They tried to do those backdoor plays. Chabot did a great job, which might lead us into our Sens Central standouts there. If I can just take it away right there, I'll just take Thomas Chabot, who I thought was great on that penalty kill. He gets that goal, which is an absolute snipe on Hellebuck. I thought Chabot was just skating, right? And I mention skating every single time I mention a Sens Central standout with this team, because I feel like they have a lack of people who are fast. And that's been a problem all season. So when there's guys who stand out, it's usually using their legs. And I thought Chabot did that. That's how he got his goal, just circling him and Stutzla. When they play give and go, sometimes they can catch defenders on their heels a little bit. And Chabot's just having a great season overall. It's really good to see. Relatively healthy so far. So him of all people too, has been here so long with no playoffs. So you got to think that he's hungrier than most of the guys in that locker room. So I'm really happy seeing Chabot's play. I think, like you guys mentioned, the blue line's not really a problem overall, just if they play the right guys. But yeah, I thought Chabot had a pretty good game, all things considered.
And just two things on Chabot. So the goal he scored was right in my end, so I got a good look on that. To beat Hellebuck, you have to have a shot like that, and that was just an absolute perfect spot for him to put it. And then, unfortunately, a play he did led to a Sens goal against. It wasn't his fault, but he had an amazing defensive play on that first goal. He got low and got his stick down and broke up a 2-on-1 pass. And then Timmy fanned on the breakout and then decided to do a no-look pass in his own end. And that turned over. And I believe it was Perfetti was right out front, and he makes it easy tap in there. So that was unfortunate, but I did like Chabot's game. So that's you took the low-hanging fruit, Jack. I don't blame you there for just transitioning into the Sen Central standout and taking the best guy. Martian, I will graciously pass it over to you if you have a second Sen Central standout.
Yeah, and I was almost thinking about just abstaining from this one just because of the way it turned out. But I think there is a guy who deserves another guy who deserves a bit of a shout out here. And I'm going to go with the big boy from Fargo, North Dakota, and that's going to be Tyler Kleven. I thought his defensive game was solid. He was playing physical. Obviously, that had that huge hit on Appleton that led to a fight with another big boy. And this is no small feat, is going toe-to-toe with Adam Lowry, who is just a mutant. I mean, I didn't actually realize how big Lowry is, but he is a monster, and he's obviously a man. He's well filled out, and Tyler Kleven didn't hesitate. He shed the mitts, and he got right in there with the big fella. Obviously, it didn't quite go perfectly for Kleven in the fight, but just the willingness. Pilsy, this is what I'm saying. I just like the willingness. The Sens need to have more guys who aren't afraid of doing it, and at this point now, you popped your cherry here, Kleven. It's now you fought Adam Lowry. I mean, there's no reason. There's a lot of other guys in the league who aren't as tough as him who will go you. So you gotta be ready to go here. And I think that now that he's done it once, he might be more willing to do it more often. And I'm hoping to see that from Tyler Kleven down the stretch, and especially in the playoffs once we make it. So Tyler Kleven's going to be a standout for me. He somehow came out of this game with a 0 ±. Maybe it was that time he spent in the box. I think there was a goal that happened during that, but either way, Tyler Kleven, I think he had a pretty decent game, and I'm always going to give him a shout out when I get the chance.
Yeah, hey, you got to be willing to fight. That's half the battle. Like you mentioned, didn't go his way, but Adam Lowry is a tough customer. And like you said, Martian, especially when you're down at ice level, I did not realize how big and strong that guy is. Like that was
yeah, you can see it, eh? They had the low camera angle came out at one point, and it was just like a bunch of guys standing around, and Adam Lowry was the biggest guy by a mile standing in front of that net. And he's wide, right? Like you can see that back strength, the shoulder strength. So, yeah, he's a tough customer too. So, and he's the captain of their team. I mean, what's this guy standing in at? Someone's got to look this up. He's got to be 6'3" and probably like 210 at least. 6'5", 210. Okay, there you go. So that's there you go. Out. He's a big boy.
Big boy. You could feel the power of those right haymakers he was throwing. And then later on in the game, Martin Palo and him were battling in front of the net, and Martin Palo gave him a couple extras, and Lowry just goes in and is like, "You saw what I did to your boy Clev. You want a piece of this?" And Martin Palo just kind of backs off there. Smart business decision. Yeah, for me, I know I was just dogging Timmy, but with Tim Stützle, you got to take the good with the bad. That was the bad, but there was good. Like Jack mentioned, I thought he was one of the players that actually had some pop to his game, and he does set up that Sanderson goal, and something that is very rare to see. I was sitting with our guy, Nick Spence, and we were watching every time Timmy's line came on, and it was Timmy that was taking draws, and he was winning them with decent success, boys. Like, Tim Stützle, 83% in the draws. Now, I mean, only 6 of them, but he won 5 of them. And Claude Giroux, he had a good night too when he was taking the draws that Timmy wasn't. Claude Giroux goes 14 for 16. So the face-offs on this team continue to have success up against the Winnipeg Jets team that's a little weaker down the middle than most teams, especially for a top team in the NHL. But I thought Tim Stützle did a really good job in the face-off dot, and he does get that assist. And we're talking about a 4-1 loss here, so it's slim pickings. So I'm going to hype up my boy Timmy. You guys know every time I'm at the CTC, I'm rocking my black Tim Stützle jersey. So seems fitting that I give him a little love on the Sen Central Standouts.
10 game point streak for Stützle too, which is pretty longest of his career. Yeah, I think that's impressive, man. They on a 5-game losing streak too. The fact that he's still putting up points, he's doing his job. That's what he's there to do, and just need more from all the other guys.
Yeah, the face-offs is the surprising thing for me, and I'm just curious in my head right now. I'm wondering how many of those were up against Cole Perfetti, another young centerman who struggled in the dot. Maybe the Sens.
I can tell you, a couple of them were up against Nemesnikov. Sorry to jump in there, Martian, but I got it.
Sens legend Nemesnikov.
Yeah, hey, I was a big fan.
Nemesnikov was only 12.5% in the dot, so he was taking a good amount and not.
So he went 2 for 2 up against Nemesnikov, 1 for 1 up against Kupari. The only draw Timmy lost was up against Lowry, and then 2 for 2 up against Scheifele. So like, that's a good.
It's a good night. It's a good night.
The dot for Timmy.
Great, yeah, great work by Tim there in the dot.
Maybe that's all we got. That's all we got.
Yeah, I was going to say, any honorable mentions, boys? I mean, people in the chat are saying Crooker. Obviously, Crooker, friend of the show. He was my locked on player, so I was watching him. He did look good out there. He had one chance in my end where he just ripped it a little bit high, but that guy just plays with such intensity. You can see it in his face and eyes. He's just so focused out there. And I thought it was the right move by Travis Green to put him on a line with Tim Stützle and Claude Giroux. Like, no offense, you typically don't want an AHL call-up who's getting his first NHL game of the season to be playing on your top line. But when you look at the rest of that left-wing depth, he was the most suitable player to play there. And I think if he gets a decent look, we could see him get a couple nice chances, because Crooker's got that mix of offensive skill, but also, as he likes to call it, blue-collar work ethic. And he'll bump and grind in the corners, and he'll get pucks to guys like Timmy and guys like Claude, and hopefully they can finish it off. So I thought decent game from Crooker.
Yeah, I think my biggest surprise with Crooker was just him showing up with a beard. I mean, this guy was obviously a baby-faced guy, I thought. Like, I always see this. People were posting them today all over the place. It's just like baby-faced guy. And then he shows up today. I mean, obviously it didn't happen overnight, because I'm not paying that close of attention to what's going on in Belleville. But impressive beard on Crooker, too. He looks like a man in there. So maybe that'll help translate to his game, because I thought he was solid out there too. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't find him overly noticeable, but if you're on ice level there, Pillsy, and you're saying he was buzzing, then I trust you.
Yeah, I mean, I was really locked in on him. So, and maybe friend of the show bump here, but I did think for a guy that's just getting his first opportunity this season in the show, I thought he did well.
Two things can be true. It can be that he was noticeable, but it's also a bad thing that he was noticeable, right? I think that's fair to say. Like, it's, if he's standing out that much and he didn't really, wasn't eye popping, then it just, again, shows that they're just lacking anything. But I do like him there, because he has the ability to make plays. I liked his work down low earlier in the game when he's with Giroux and Stützle. Like, that's usually where you see AHL guys maybe struggle a little bit, is the board battles. I thought he did well for his limited minutes.
Yeah, and I mean, 14 minutes and 4 seconds of ice time, 3 shots, 1 block, 1 hit. Like, yeah, that's all right. So, boys, what are we thinking? And I didn't even think I would have to bring this up, but maybe we'll wrap on this. And I've seen some people in the chat suggesting it. Do you go to Forsey on Saturday just to kind of shake things up and say to Ullmark, like, look, we're going to give you a little break here? Martian, you feel strong about this?
There's 2 reasons here, Pillsy. First of all, we're going to be boots on the ground, and I don't want to go and have to watch a Forsberg game here. So that's one. Number 2, I mean, this guy needs to shake off whatever problems he's having here. Figure it out for yourself. You're a starting goaltender in this National Hockey League. Like, let's go here, pal. Like, you've shown it. You've done it earlier in the season, and so he needs to sort it out, and there's no way you give him another rest and a night off. I mean, he didn't play much in the 4 Nations, so it's not like he's been grounded in all these games he's playing. He's not playing a ton of hockey. So, and they've only got 3 games this week, so it's like he should be able to handle a couple days off and then get back in the crease. I mean, we didn't give him the option. Don't even ask the guy, because I don't know, based on what I'm seeing out of his, I don't know what's going on with him, but I wouldn't be surprised if you say let Forsey have the net on Saturday. No, you're on home ice. You got a weak opponent here. I don't care even if the other guys who are injured right now aren't playing. The Sens should have a good chance as any game to win against the San Jose Sharks. So you throw him right back in there, no questions asked. Absolutely, in my opinion. I won't even hear any other argument.
No, I wasn't suggesting I was going the other way. It's just one of those where not a great game up against Montreal. He wasn't feeling the puck much tonight, and maybe you try to switch things up. But if you're the coaching staff, Jack, you feel strongly one way or another?
I wouldn't say strongly, no. But I'd say the only argument I will buy for starting Forsberg is to showcase him for the deadline. That's the only reason I would start him. But I completely agree. Like it's got to be Ullmark, and again, though, he wasn't bad tonight. He just wasn't good to start. And that's what ended up costing them. But again, when you score one goal, I'm not looking at Ullmark and saying that he was the issue tonight. But yeah, like it's got to be him Saturday. Remember the game against San Jose in San Jose? He was the only reason they had a sniff in that game, and they stole it. And that was the turning point of the season at the time. So maybe there's something in the water. They got to snap another streak here. You got to give Ullmark the net against a team they don't need to beat. They need to beat convincingly on Saturday night. It needs to be a convincing win. Hopefully the guys are back anytime now for Tkachuk and Pinto and Norris. Like, I hope they're healthy, but like, let's go here. This is down the stretch. They're 4 points out now? 2 points out? I don't know, man. Like you gotta have your big dogs in there, and Ullmark's one of them.
Yeah, and last time they snapped a big losing streak, they went on a 10-2-1 run. So let's get a little bit of that vibe going again here. Nice statement win against San Jose would do the job, wouldn't it, Jack? So let's go.
Yeah, we need a big one up against the San Jose Sharks. We'll wrap up with final thoughts here on the postcast after a quick break. You're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast. It's the Postcast. All right, boys, a postcast edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Brandon Pillar, joined by Jack Richardson and Lalime's Martian. Producer Ross working the board. A 4-1 loss to the Winnipeg Jets. We got 3 Sun Central standouts. I scrounged for an honorable mention, but Jack, I'll start with you for final thoughts here, wrapping up. Obviously the Winnipeg Jets come into town, top team in the NHL, now on an 11-game win streak. You go from facing the number 1 team to the 32nd team in the NHL. But it's funny that this is happening. The irony is kind of there because those two teams just played each other, and the San Jose Sharks had the Winnipeg Jets on the ropes right down to the last minute, and the Jets tied it up in the last minute and were able to win 2-1 in overtime. Are you worried about a bit of, I don't know if trap game is the right word here, but are you worried about the effort that the San Jose Sharks are going to put up against an Ottawa Senators team that is just on a big slide here?
Yeah, definitely. And I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but also when the guys get back, when Tkachuk, Pinto, and Norris, assuming all 3 play, it's going to take them some time maybe to get back to their legs back. Tkachuk a little less so, but Norris is going to go on a month without playing a hockey game, and Pinto about that time too. So it'll take them some time. And you know, that's like I mentioned, if it's a close game and then you let a squeaker in or something like that, and Ullmark's not perfect, then yeah, I'm worried. But I do think that it's a game that they just need to make a statement. Like we were saying earlier, just go and dominate like they did against the Minnesota Wild to begin February. That feels like forever ago, but they did that. This team did that and dominated the best road team in the NHL. Now go do it to a team that you should dominate too. I think that's a very fair expectation, especially where they are in the standings. I don't know if you boys feel the same way. I'm going to be watching from home, but you guys will be boots on the ground. So I'm hoping for your sake that it's a barn burner in a good way for the Sens.
Yeah, I mean they don't have time for those guys to get themselves up to speed. You got to hit the ground running here, boys, and that's what they have to do. As soon as those guys are back in the lineup, they got to be go and go like we've never seen them go. I mean, you could say a lot about Brady Tkachuk's play leading up to that 4 Nations tournament. He would look like a guy who was just trying not to get injured to make sure he was going to be there for it. And then once he was there, the level of play that we saw from this guy was through the roof. So, I mean, we need that version of Brady Tkachuk to come back here to Ottawa, and he better play his balls off because that's now we know he can do it. And he can do it when he's even a little dinged up. I think that final game of that tournament might have been his best game, and he played pretty damn good the whole way through. So, I mean, we need this guy. So he needs to be the dog, the big dog, and lead by example, and the rest of the guys are going to follow. That's what I'm hoping for.
Martian, are you going to be going into the CTC being like, all right, they're going to flip things around. They're going to lay an absolute beat down on the Sharks. We're going to snap this losing streak, and then we're going to move on? Or are you going in being like, oh my God, if this team loses this game, where do we stand? Like, what's your confidence level?
I'll never be that guy, Pilsy. You know I'm going to go in there and I'm going to be like, we're going to kill them tonight. We're going to kill them. So that's what we're looking to do. Blood's in the water and the Sharks are drowning. Let's go.
Nice. I love it. Yeah, I'm with you. I feel good after dealing with this game. I'm going to have a much different vibe on a Saturday. The CTC is going to be bumping, although it was pretty packed tonight. Not going to lie, boys. It was a pretty packed barn. But the vibes are going to be much better on Saturday. And thank you to everyone who joined us for this postcast. We've had to do a lot of vent casts. We've had to do a lot of fine casts, but when the times are good, they're good. And I have a feeling Saturday is going to be a good one. Boys, any final thoughts here before I land this plane?
Go Sens go. That's my only final thought. Let's just get off this schneid. I'm tired of losing.
Land it away, Pilsy. It's all you, Captain.
All right. Well, I'll answer this quick question from Kyle Pilsy. What's your favorite thing about the CTC? Being there with 18,000 of my best friends, Sens fans, and say it every time, the cold water just hits nice. It lets you know you're home. It wakes you up a little bit in the tap. So I hope they never change that. But
you're just throwing your head under the tap there, Pills. You ever get down there and you just take a sip?
Not often, but once in a while when the Molsons have been going down too much and you got to get a quick hydration break in, that's not a bad move because you're not going to get colder water from water bottles and fridges. I'll tell you that for free.
Yeah, maybe throw your hands in there, get a little splash, little bird bath, get a little in the hair, freshen up.
Yeah, that's basically like a smelling salt. So that'll get you going for sure. Thanks everyone in the chat for joining us. 4-1 loss to the Winnipeg Jets, but we roll on. We will have another episode of the Locked On Senators podcast, of course, nice and early. Ross is going to get on a jet plane from Winnipeg. The Winnipeg Jets are out of here, but Ross is heading on a jet from Winnipeg to the nation's capital, and we will be boots on the ground for Saturday's game. This has been another edition of the Postcast presented by the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Brandon Pillar. That's Jack Richardson, Lalime's Martian. Thanks for tuning in, guys. It's the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.